We're lucky enough to drive a lot of cars in our jobs at Classics World. Everything from exotica like Astons and Bentleys to once common street furniture that's now evaporated, unless you're in the classic car world, to iconic hot hatches and sports cars. But some cars leave a lasting impression, enough that one drive just isn't enough, that we think, I need to own one of these. Now for me, the first car I ever drove in this job, for which I didn't want to give the keys back, I needed to take that car home with me, was a car that I've been eyeing up ever since, or certainly a model. And now, after nearly 4 years in the job at Classics World, I finally saved up enough and found the right car that I'm very pleased to say that I have bought a Mercedes W123. Oh yeah. Our friends at Lancaster Insurance are running monthly giveaways. You can win all sorts, from experience days to tools, restaurant vouchers and tech. So click the link below at the end of the video to enter their latest competition. That's right, after years of talking about them on and off camera, I finally bought my own Mercedes W123. Say hello to my 1983 200 Saloon. I bought it in the WB & Sons December auction, having not actually seen it in person. Then I waited till we went up to film the January auction preview to collect the car and drive it the 360 miles back from Newcastle down to my home here in Kent. And I've loved every minute with this car so far. I'm reminded immediately why I love them so much, and that this one is a very good example of it. Classic white is the colour, which wouldn't be most people's first choice, but I think it suits this car well. It's one of few classics that can wear white without looking too much like a wedding car. The engine, 2 litre 4-cylinder petrol, not people's first choice for a 123, but I did want a diesel like a lot of people often do. But then you look at the values on diesels these days. The fact that you have to pay around double what I gave for this car to get into an equivalent diesel meant that for me the maths just didn't add up. I can use this car, I paid a reasonable price for it, and I'm not scared to pile the miles on it. It's a 123, it's still bomb-proof. I know better than most just how much W123s can rot. If you've seen our buying guide video, you'll know that it is pretty much this area here. I did an extensive check of the MOT history, had a good look at all WB & Sons photos and videos they'd done, even asked James from WB personally if it was a good car, and he assured me it was as good as it looked. And it is. There is no rot whatsoever. The sills, the arches, the bulkhead, the boot floor, all absolutely rock solid with this car, and on top is excellent. It's straight as an arrow down there, no major dings or dents. The chrome looks good. Actually, I'll back up a bit. There is one ding/dent. This one just here, I'm not proud of that because that is my fault. Just went for a little cruise one afternoon with a spare battery in the boot for my Fiat Strada, and I forgot it was in there. I went round a corner with a bit of gusto, shall we say. It slid over and it dented the wing out from within, and unfortunately it has broken the paint as well. But other than that, it really does look the part. This car really has lasted its 40 years and 123,000 miles incredibly well. Like a bank vault. The interior of my 123 is in remarkably tidy condition. Blue cloth interior, which I think pairs really nicely with the white exterior. I'm not a fan of leather seats, to be honest, so this cloth was a great choice for me. And they're in great nick as well. There is a little bit of glove box lid sag, but that's just typical of a 123. I've never seen one without sagging glove box, to be honest with you. All the wood is nice and straight, and that's all attached. It's not flaking off, doesn't need redoing like an XJS would. The only change I have made to this car is I've fitted a more modern head unit so I can Bluetooth my phone to it to play my Bee Gees and Cheryl Cole and so on, but it's still retro looking with that big kind of hi-fi look. It's really nice in here, and immediately I felt at home. Once again, these big springy bus seats. I just love 123s, and I love that this one is mine. So without further ado, let's get on the road. There are some cars that you get in and within 500 yards they just feel right. And for me, when I drove that white 240D from Kim Cairns all those years ago, I knew within 500 yards that the W123 was a favourite. Everything about it, from these big springy seats to this bus-like steering wheel and the relaxed and sedate way that it covered ground, just felt good. A proper cruiser. To say nothing of that unburstable feeling of solidity that 123s are known for. Everyone you get in, even if it's a bit ropey, feels like it could take on the world and win. I decided that one day I had to have a 123 in my life, and what with prices starting to rise and a little nest egg built up, I knew that it was now or never. When I saw this 1983 200 petrol in the WB & Sons December sale, I knew this was the one. A fair estimate, what looked like good condition, and crucially not one advisory for rust on the MOT history. I stuck a proxy bid in so I couldn't get carried away with auction fever on the day, and let it be. And half an hour after the sale finished, I got a phone call from James that confirmed, yep, I now owned a W123. 360 miles later in a car that I'd only met a few hours prior, and I made it without fault. I'm really not surprised by that at all, and I doubt any of you are, but this car just felt utterly unburstable on that trip, and it did 34 miles to the gallon, which you can't ask fairer than that. Once I was home, I started digging into this car a bit. The battery that was installed was far too small, and that meant the car was struggling to crank over and it would go flat really quickly. So a correct size battery was duly ordered and then fitted. The tyres, they were Michelins with plenty of tread, and that's a good thing, but they were also from 1998. I like that vintage, mainly because that's the year I was born, but I don't want my tyres from that year. 4 brand new Falcons were ordered and installed, and that made the car a lot smoother riding without 50 pence shaped tyres on it. As is quite common for 123s, water had got under the rear window seal and rotted out a couple of holes there, so whenever it rained it was going straight into the boot. My dad and I took the rear window out and a local body shop cut out all the rust and fiberglass that was hidden back there, welded it up solid, painted it for me, and then we fitted the rear window back in ourselves. And with the car all sorted, I could actually get on with using it and enjoying it, and I was reminded quite how much I love these cars. You can't hurry it. This one's a 200 petrol with about 100 horsepower if you're lucky, and if I put my foot hard down, 50, 52. It's not a sports saloon, this old girl, but that's not why I bought it. I've got my Fiat Seicento as a B-road bashing hooligan. This is a classic cruiser, a car that I can just hootle around on the weekends, go to some shows, take on the odd road trip. And for that, a W123 in any guise is arguably the perfect car for it. Just makes me smile. It's such a lovely cruiser, this thing. It's got that Mercedes solidity to it. Everything still clunks and clicks absolutely perfectly. Everything electrical works, and it really does feel like you could drive this car forever. And to make sure the Merc does stay running forever, I've changed it into some slightly scruffier clothes to give it some maintenance, courtesy of this video's sponsor, Liqui Moly. Now first up, you want to make sure the oil in your car is fresh, so it's going to get 5 litres of Liqui Moly's 10W40. Oh. That went well. This is a 40-year-old car, and as much as it is performing pretty well, I want to make it even better. So I've got Liqui Moly's carburetor and valve cleaner. This stuff just goes in with your fuel. You can use this for up to 70 litres of petrol. In fact, it cleans out your carburetor, your fuel system and your ignition system to make sure the car is running smooth as possible, because that will improve performance, make it smoother and quieter, and it will crucially improve fuel economy, which with prices the way they are at the moment is probably the best bit of this. Liqui Moly also do this, petrol stabilising liquid. If you're going to put a car into storage, you want to do it with some of this stuff in it as well. It stops the petrol aging and oxidising, can cause all manner of issues for your car's running, it can rot your fuel lines out, and you can end up with air in your fuel system. It's all bad, but petrol stabiliser from Liqui Moly will sort that. Right, now the car is mechanically in fine fettle, let's drop it off the ramps. I'm going to dip the oil, and then I think the old girl deserves a little bath. With the Merc clean, Liqui Moly can help finish it off, starting with windshield cleaner foam. Simply spray onto your glass, let it act, wipe it off with a cloth or paper towel, and voila! Grease, insects and residue, gone. Door mirrors too? Why yes sir. Finally, Liqui Moly Chrome Gloss Cream. This gets applied like polish. Simply work it in with a cloth, let it glaze over, and then buff it off. This gives the bright work a lovely shine, combined with handy rust protection. Gorgeous. I've had the opportunity to drive a lot of old cars through this job, whether it's cars that we've borrowed for filming or members of the Classics World fleet like the Cortina or the Bentley. But I've never actually owned a car older than 1999. So the opportunity to own a great example of one of my favourite classics that's in really nice condition for a fair price, it's a dream come true really. My ultimate dream car is still a Citroën DS, you probably know that, and it always will be for me. But it must be said, after a few months with this lovely example of a classic Merc, I'd have to think long and hard about swapping the keys for one. This video is proudly sponsored by Lancaster Insurance. Give them a call on 01480 400 889 for an insurance quote on your classic car. And don't forget to click the link below to enter their latest competition.